All right, welcome into the show. Coming up on today's 76ers now, a new Kelly Oubre Jr. injury update. Is he getting close to joining this basketball team again? Also, does Zach LaVine want to be a Philadelphia 76ers? Philly listed as a destination that's preferred for him, as well as his agent, Rich Paul. First, though, have you enjoyed this Sixers hot start? 10-3, one of the surprise and best teams in the NBA going into Tuesday's in-season tournament game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. If that's the case, throw me those 76s down in the chat right now. Let's start off with this Kelly Oubre update. Back in action at the Sixers practice facility in Camden, New Jersey. Moving around pretty good from all of the video that I saw. Did some light conditioning as well as some shooting drills. And he looks like a player that could potentially rejoin this team. And maybe the timeline has changed a little bit from the initial reporting from Shams Charania, Adrian Wojnarowski, when they said he was going to miss significant time, because the player that I saw, he looked as though that maybe he can start to hop back into basketball activities and join the team that he had an impact on during this hot start after signing with this team late in the free agency period. Again, we're not sure if this incident is true or not, what's going on around this. Oubre getting hit by a car. There's a bike involved. Ring cam footage going to TMZ. Either way, we're talking basketball right now because that's all we know. And Oubre back in action. Nick Nurse, he knows as much as we do pretty much. At least it seems that way. He provided an update on Oubre and said this, that yesterday on Monday, first day back on the court for Oubre, he said the Sixers vice president of athlete care has told him that today and tomorrow, as in Tuesday, pretty critical in the evaluation. I think getting him moving was the first step. Getting him into some contact and things is the next step. And then I think after tomorrow, we'll have a little better read on the timeline. I haven't really zeroed in on thinking about the timeline, to be honest. I mean, I think I knew it was going to be a little bit before we knew, but I think he's moving pretty good today, and I think that's the first positive sign. The sooner the better, that's for sure. I think him getting into some action where there is some contact, they'll go some type of drill work where there's some live action against development coaches, things like that. That'll probably be the very next step, and then we just got to progress it to live scrimmaging, I think, before they get him back on the court. So a lengthy way of saying that Oubre still has a recovery period to go through, but there's a process here that they will follow, and hopefully he's able to seamlessly go through that process. Seems like he could be back sooner rather than later, and as Nurse alluded to, that's good news for the Philadelphia 76ers. Adrian Wojnarowski on the national front, after we have you covered with the local front, said Oubre could return in 2+ weeks. That lands around early December with Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday, Black Friday on Friday. It's crazy how quickly this year has gone. But up to this point, a good year for the 76ers in the 2023-2024 season. Get well, Oubre. Show him some brotherly love. Spam KO in the comment section. Hopefully the Sixers going to be able to knock out the Cleveland Cavaliers on Tuesday night. For Oubre, we know the deal, right? Having a career season, and it was unfortunate that he suffered this injury and this unfortunate circumstance. Whatever the hell happened, whenever we find out, if we do, we'll pass that along. But for him, cool story, right? Signs with the Sixers late in free agency for cheap. A player who's had some flashes throughout his career. He's put up some really good numbers, including last year with the Charlotte Hornets, but then no team wanted him. Very odd. Sixers able to received the benefits of that because he was a terrific player off the bench and then really good filling in that starting five after the James Harden and PJ Tucker trade. As for how he's faring this year, some of the most efficient hoop of his career, 16.3 points per game, 5+ rebounds, a steal and a half, 50% from the field, and usually his three-point percentage somewhere down between 34-35%. This year, though, just under 38%. How the Sixers have fared with Oubre and without him, they suffered those back-to-back losses against Indiana and Boston. I thought they returned nicely, though, against a solid Atlanta team and a talented Brooklyn Nets team with back-to-back wins going into Tuesday's action. With Oubre, 8 games played, 118.5 points per game, and then a 7-1 record, and then without Oubre, 123.5 points per game. That's pretty interesting, but also the 76ers have kind of gone off offensively to skew those numbers a little bit against Atlanta and against Brooklyn. 3-2 record, though, so that a little bit of a change, even though they've been scoring more points. I think the story that this also tells is that they've really missed him on defense because he is a very good, athletic, and quick-twitched defensive player at that wing spot on that side of the floor. Also, I think this is somewhat underrated. Like Nicholas Batum, the Sixers missed him during that 2-game losing streak. Joel Embiid, very complimentary of him. He said he fits us perfectly. And I think that he, like Oubre, has kind of fit seamlessly on this team, and that's why this team has had success. You don't always need that third star. If you have a well-rounded team, sometimes that is better. So for Robert Covington and Nicholas Batum, as you take a look at the numbers right here, I think both of them have filled in nicely for Kelly Oubre. And then once Oubre comes back, of course, Batum's going to be a part of the rotation because he plays a different position. But I also want to see some action for Robert Covington. I don't need to see Morris any longer because I think he's been really inefficient. DeAnthony Melton has stepped his play up. So the 76ers right now, as we've talked about on the show, so deep. Oubre's a part of that. Roko's a part of that. Batum a part of that equation as well. If you're excited for Oubre to come back, let us know. Type me. And if you want to share your basketball analysis on top of that, you can do that too with what you think about how the Oubre return is going to impact this squad. Coming up next here on the show, we're talking Zach LaVine. Does he want to play for the 76ers? The sky is falling in Chicago right now, and LaVine's attitude, kind of a negative in that equation. I don't love what I've seen on that front. Stay tuned for that. First, though, today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. $100 deposit match at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. You can win real money, and producer Chip and I have won up to 25 times our money this year. We've been in our bag with kind of these combo NFL, NBA picks. I even went into the NHL bag with Sidney Crosby a couple of nights ago, and I was able to win. They're more or less game, just makes game days a lot more fun, and sometimes you have the added advantage. For instance, they run these specials, and for Embiid going up against a Cleveland team with Evan Mobley, Jarrett Allen, who he often plays well against, more or less 25.5 points. I'm going more here. Embiid is averaging the most points in the NBA, 32-33. DeAnthony Melton, been on a cooker of late. Does that continue? More than 12.5 points is what we like here. And then Evan Mobley, more than 9 rebounds. He's going to get active on the glass. So one more time, it's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS for that up to $100 deposit match. Now let's shift gears and pivot to Zach LaVine. Does he want to play for the Sixers? According to reports, he does, because Philadelphia, one of the listed destinations that's preferred from him and his camp. Here's Jake Fisher on the LaVine situation. LaVine and his representation hold several preferred landing spots, such as the Los Angeles Lakers, Miami Heat, and Philadelphia 76ers, league sources told Yahoo Sports, and each team has registered some level of interest in the Bulls guard. Now, as we've discussed here on the show, I know the Sixers have the picks to make the deal, but just how interested in LaVine is Daryl Morey and this organization? Are they just poking around to see what the asking price might be? I don't think he fits what the Sixers are looking for from an on-court fit, but also a long-term contract and money standpoint. More from Fisher on LaVine. Sixers officials have surely been encouraged by the team's hot start behind Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, while valuing the newfound depth as part of their Harden Hall, most notably Robert Covington and Nicholas Batum. Front office personnel who have overlapped with Philadelphia president Daryl Morey believe there are several players, likely a list of players, that the Sixers would strongly consider moving on now if they were to become available at this juncture of the young season. LaVine does not appear to fit that billing, even if he could be had closer to February's trade deadline. For the Sixers, I think it appears they want more of a two-way player. That's why we talked about more realistic targets and more targets that make sense in an OG Anunoby and an Alex Caruso, less demanding of the basketball offensively, but still impactful on the defensive end to a high and elite degree. but things could change depending on who is ultimately available, the price tag, and how the evaluation of this particular club and the Sixers continues to evolve going into February's trade deadline, because we're a long ways away from that. Past 4 years for LaVine, no question that he can pour it up, he can score it. It's very elite at just putting the biscuit in the basket. I don't love his lack of efficiency this year, and I think the numbers have gone down a little bit. I can understand why he's not happy with the work environment there. We can all relate. When we're not as happy at the work environment, we don't produce as good of results, but super, super talented. What I don't like here, because I do like the game at times, because he could score from all three levels. Not really a defensive player, though. So, again, doesn't fit that mold of what the Sixers are looking for. I don't like the contract. $40 million in 2023, 2024, maybe the Bulls would eat some of that money. In 2024, 2025, $43 million. And then after that, 45.9, 48.9 with that player option in 2026, 2027. Then he is set to be an unrestricted free agent in 2027. So that's a lot of money to pay for a player that you'd be committed to, that you're not sure fits with this Sixers team. Bottom line here appears to be some level of mutual interest, because the Sixers are kind of poking around a little bit reportedly. And then per Zach LaVine and his camp, he's obviously interested in Philadelphia, so it's important to talk about and dissect here on 76ers. Now, this is what we do know. Next couple of months going to be very fascinating. We round out with this. Do you want the Sixers to trade for Zach LaVine? Y for yes, N for no. I hope all of you out there are enjoying this holiday week. If you do or don't celebrate Thanksgiving, either way, hopefully you're able to spend some time with some friends and family members and travel safely, of course. Subscribe to the show. We'll catch you next time here on 76ers Now. I'm Chase for Chip. We out. Peace.